So this is Creative Nights. It's nice to see all of you here. My name is Shilkoff. I'm the art director of AMA this year. And tonight we're going to be learning a little bit of Adobe Illustrator and some fundamental design concepts like color and layout and composition. So I'm going to be showing you guys a few YouTube videos before we get into the program. They're pretty great, I would say. They're very concise, and they teach it better than I could, like in like 2 hours and like 10 minutes. So I'll start these videos. And oh yeah, so after the videos, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the poster that I created for Creative Nights, and we're going to be remaking it in Adobe Illustrator.
It can draw your color. It plays a vital role in design and everyday life. It can draw your eye to an image, evoke a certain mood or emotion, even communicate something important without using words at all. So how do we know which colors look good together and which ones don't? The answer is simple: color theory. Artists and designers have followed color theory for centuries, but anyone can learn more about it. It can help you feel confident in many different situations, whether it's choosing colors for a design or putting together the perfect outfit. All it takes is a little insight, and you'll be looking at color in a whole new way. Let's start at the beginning, the very beginning, with a refresher on the basics. Remember learning about primary and secondary colors in school? Then you already have some knowledge of color theory. Red and yellow make orange, yellow and blue make green, and blue and red make purple. If we mix these colors together, we get even more in-between shades, like red-orange and yellow-green. Altogether, they form what's called a color wheel. You can probably see where it gets its name. Now, let's take it one step further with hue, saturation, and value. These are terms you might never see in daily life, but they're the key to understanding more nuanced colors, like all those little paint chips at the home improvement store. Hue is the easiest one. It's basically just another word for color. Saturation refers to intensity. In other words, whether the color appears more subtle or more vibrant. Value has to do with how dark or light the color is, ranging from black to white. As you can see, this gives us many different shades, from a deep reddish brown to light pastel pink.
Sad.
I'm thoroughly enjoying this.
Yeah.
Just turn it
I
down.
know.
Color, light pastel pink.
Oh, that's perfect.
So how do we put this all together to create professional-looking color schemes? There are actually tried and true formulas based on something called color harmony that can help. All you need is the color wheel. The easiest formula for harmony is monochromatic because it only uses one color or hue. Just pick a spot on the color wheel and use your knowledge of saturation and value to create variations. The best thing about monochromatic color schemes is that they're guaranteed to match. An analogous color scheme uses colors that are next to each other on the wheel, like reds and oranges, or cooler colors like blues and greens. Don't be afraid to play with the palette and create your own unique interpretation. That's what these formulas really are, merely starting points to help guide and inspire you. Complementary colors are opposite each other on the wheel, for instance, blue and orange, or the classic red and green. To avoid complementary color schemes that are too simplistic, add some variety by introducing lighter, darker, or desaturated tones. A split complementary color scheme uses the colors on either side of the complement. This gives you the same level of contrast, but more colors to work with, and potentially more interesting results. A triadic color scheme uses 3 colors that are evenly spaced, forming a perfect triangle on the wheel. These combinations tend to be pretty striking, especially with primary or secondary colors, so be mindful when using them in your work. Tetradic color schemes form a rectangle on the wheel, using not 1 but 2 complementary color pairs. This formula works best if you let one color dominate while the others serve as an accent. There are a few classic do's and don'ts when it comes to color. For instance, have you ever seen colors that seem to vibrate when they're placed next to each other? The solution is to tone it down, literally, and there's a simple way to do it. Start with one color and try adjusting its lightness, darkness, or saturation. Sometimes a little contrast is all your color palette needs. Readability is an important factor in any design. Your colors should be legible, engaging, and easy on the eyes. Sometimes that means not using color, at least not in every little detail. Neutral colors like black, white, and gray can help you balance your design, so when you do use color, it really stands out. Every color sends a message. It's important to consider the tone of your project and choose a color palette that fits. For example, bright colors tend to have a fun or modern vibe. Desaturated colors often appear more businesslike. Sometimes it just depends on the context. You'd be surprised how flexible color can be. You can find ideas for color schemes in all kinds of interesting places, from advertising and branding to famous works of art. You can even use a web resource to browse color palettes or generate your own. Even experienced designers take inspiration from the world around them. There's nothing wrong with finding something you like and making it your own. Everywhere you look, there's color, color, and more color. It can be intimidating to use it in your work, but it doesn't have to be. Just keep experimenting and remember what you've learned about color theory. Soon, choosing great-looking colors will feel like second nature. We hope you enjoyed learning the basics of color. Check out the rest of our design topics, including typography, images, and composition.
All right, and then there's one more. It's not this. It's the composition.
Can you send a link to it?
Oh yeah, I'll have those up after.
In a way, they're the
All right, this one's layout and composition, and then we'll be using all of these concepts and ideas to recreate the Create a Nice poster.
layout and composition. In a way, they're the foundation of design. They give your work structure and make it easier to navigate, from the margins on the sides to the content in between. Of course, it's not just about working with text. Composition matters in other mediums too, like graphic design, web design, and much more. Without a well-composed layout, your work would basically fall apart. The key to mastering layout and composition is to think like a designer. Luckily, it's easier than it sounds. There are 5 basic principles that can help you transform your work and sharpen your eye for design. Let's start at the top and work our way down. Proximity is all about using visual space to show relationships in your content. In practice, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is make sure related items are grouped together. For example, blocks of text or elements in a graphic. Groups that are not related to each other should be separated to visually emphasize their lack of a relationship. All in all, this makes your work easier to understand at a glance, whether it's purely text or something more visual. White space is an important part of every composition. Now, this doesn't mean literal white space. It just means negative space, like the spaces between your content, between lines, and even the outer margins. There's no one way to use whitespace correctly, but it's good to understand its purpose. Whitespace helps you define and separate different sections. It gives your content room to breathe. If your work ever starts to feel cluttered or uncomfortable, a little whitespace might be just what the doctor ordered. Alignment is something you deal with all the time, even if you don't realize it. Whenever you type an email or create a document, the text is aligned automatically. When aligning objects by yourself, for instance, images or separate text boxes, getting it right can be tricky. The most important thing is to be consistent. Let's take a look at what that means. It might help to imagine your content arranged inside of a grid. Notice how there's an invisible line centering each image to the text? Each grouping is also evenly spaced and aligned, with equal-sized margins. It's that attention to detail that makes the composition easier to navigate. Without consistent alignment, your work could start to feel disorganized. Contrast simply means that one item is different from another. In layout and composition, contrast can help you do many things. For example, catch the reader's eye, create emphasis, or call attention to something important. There are lots of strategies for creating contrast. You can use color, adjust the size, shape, or visual weight of an object, or use contrasting styles of text. Contrast is also closely tied to hierarchy, a visual technique that can help the viewer navigate your work. In other words, it shows them where to begin and where to go next, using different levels of emphasis. Establishing hierarchy is simple. Just decide which elements you want the reader to notice first, then make them stand out. High-level or important items are usually larger, bolder, or more eye-catching in some way. Repetition is a reminder that every project should have a consistent look and feel. That means finding ways to reinforce your design by repeating or echoing certain elements. For instance, if you have a specific color palette, look for ways to carry it through. If you've chosen a special header style, use it every time. It's not just for aesthetic reasons. Being consistent can also make your work easier to read. When the viewer knows what to expect, they can relax and focus on the content. In many ways, layout and composition are the unsung heroes of design. It's easy to overlook their role, but they're part of everything you do. A nudge here, some extra white space there, and voila! With a little attention to detail, you can create beautiful, professional-looking compositions. Thanks for joining us for the basics of layout and composition. Check out the rest of our design topics, including typography, color, and images.
What?
All right. So I'm actually gonna show you what I'm doing at mostly my own pace, and then after I'm gonna come around and help you all. So don't worry if you get behind.
And then help everyone.
But yeah, I'm just gonna go over the original design for the Creative Nights flyer. All right, so this is the color palette. Or let me go back to it. Okay, so.
Oh, we're gonna make that?
We're gonna make almost exactly this. There's this one thing in here, and I'll explain what this is. So this is a bunch of tiny circles, and it's gonna slow down your computer a lot. So like making these, moving them around, and cutting them out. There's also this curvature that I will get into in another class of how to do this. So we're gonna be using circles for the background shapes of this. So anyway, what's going on here? I'll go back to the color palette. I used a split complementary color palette. So the split is, of course, yellow on one side, and then the other side is like that purple blue area. And then I created different shades of the blue. And actually I didn't know that it was split complementary, but it just came about naturally because I haven't done graphic design in 30 years, but I like remembered it intuitively. This, when placed next to the yellow, actually does create that vibration that they talked about. So the way that I was able to keep those two colors without being overwhelming was because since it's like blended with the background blue color, you kind of get that vibrancy of that purple color without it vibrating too much. Like it does vibrate, but I feel like it's not overwhelming, at least when printed out on paper. See, like if I'll show you. So this is what it looks like if you put the solid color right next to the yellow, and it does vibrate quite a lot. But if we turn this down, and I'll explain how to do this in a second, it does like kind of match a little bit like that kind of color blend of this. So the first thing we're gonna do is download a font. So go to browser and go to losttype.com. It's one word, there's no hyphens or anything. So losttype.com. And once you're there, click on the fonts. And I'm just going to do a Control F, Command F on a Mac. And then just type in Cubano. Yeah, Command F on a Mac. Control F on a PC, Command F on a Mac.
That's refined.
And so once you're there, just click on it. And we're going to donate $0 and click the download button. So once it's downloaded, just open it on a Mac. On a Mac, once it's open, I know on a Mac we need to extract the zip file first. Once you extract it, go into it and go to Cubano Personal License and double click on Cubano Regular. On a Mac, it'll have a button in the lower right, I think, to install. Just go around. This one I need to go around. Let's see what this one. Okay, yeah, so double click on Cubano Regular. It's the Word file. Oh yeah, install on the lower right. Alright, so.
Oh, and then she puts it like on here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it'll be accessible within Illustrator. Is everyone good?
We're only downloading the regular one? Only using Cubano regular, not personal.
Yeah, just the regular one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here. I did go.
So once it opens on a Mac, once it opens Font Book and shows you that it's there, then you're done. Yeah, so just double click that. Just double click it.
Your student email. Oh, you have like some direct messaging.
This is from a management class.
So I'm assuming everyone's done downloading the font. If not, it's okay. I'll come around and help. Help out later.
We just exit out of it then? That point.
Yeah, you don't need to be in there.
Just in my but
Could you guys
as well.
could you guys quiet down a little bit? Sorry. Okay, so open up Adobe Illustrator, assuming you haven't installed. If not, it's okay. And I'm just gonna close this so I can see what it looks like. So this is what it should look like, except for all this stuff down here. So click on Create New. Does everyone have it open? Do I need to wait? All right, and then actually, don't remember. It should have a letter size on the upper left. It should just be called letter. It might say under the width and height. It might say points. If it does, just change that to inches.
Ours is like, since it's new, it just says.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no
Let me see what the
templates
new
or
one.
anything, yeah.
Okay, let me see what
Oh,
this
I
is.
exited out of that. Yeah, it just says, let's start something new.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. If you're out of the thing, if you're on a Mac, click Command N.
Command what?
N.
What is that?
Creates a new file. N means new.
So we can exit.
Yeah. So then you're gonna want to go to the Print tab. I think that's what it looks like for everyone.
Yeah. It's under.
And then
Okay.
so the Print tab. It's the fifth tab.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
And then do letter.
Yeah. And change your units from points to inches. Alright, I want to get everybody past this point, and then I'm just going to go. Alright, yeah. Yeah. That looks right. Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna turn on release. Okay, yeah, so, change the units from points to inches. It should be 612 by 792, and it should say points next to it, and you just click on the word points and click inches. Alright, and then once you guys have done that, change the units from points to inches, just click create, and then we will begin. Alright, so mine looks different from yours. This is what yours looks like. Anyway, change it from up here, this area, it'll say essentials, change it to typography. Alright, and then your screen should look very similar to mine. There is a shortcut, I'm going to be using a lot of shortcuts, and you can figure them out as you go, because when you hover on everything, on all these buttons, it tells you what the shortcut is. So it says direct selection tool A. If you hover over here, it says ellipse tool L. It might also say rectangle tool M. So I'll just try to use the sidebar as much as I can for this, and then over time you guys will learn the shortcuts. But one shortcut, if you're like zoomed in, and you can zoom in by pinching, that's just easier even with the mouse to just pinch zoom on a Mac. Yeah, like on your trackpad, like how you zoom things on your iPhone or your Android phone. And yeah, so if you're like zoomed in on something, you can press Control or Command 0 to center the page right in the middle of the window. So I'm going to start by creating a rectangle that fills the background. And to do that, everyone hit M on their keyboards. So once you hit M, drag from the upper corner, and it'll say intersect when you hover over that upper corner of the page. And click and drag all the way to the lower corner.
This is a rectangle.
Yeah, we're just creating a background color for the page. And it should just be white when you do that. If you look right over here, I wish I had a Mac so like I could shake my cursor and it gets big. But over here, it should be, that is the outline color, and behind it is the fill color. So you have the outline color selected. You're going to want to turn that off by clicking on that little tiny red slash button right there. And then click again on the fill color over here. Great. Double click on it, and it should come up with a window that asks you to type in a color. And you're going to want to type in this color right here, that number, 9D to 48E. And then that'll give you the same color that's on it. Actually, the screen's kind of of tinted blue, so it'll be like a more vibrant version of that.
Just like the app, and we'll see what color it is.
Yeah, okay, so I'll explain this app for a second because it's a very useful tool when I'm making my design. So this is a random color generator, but it kind of generates colors that are within those rules. So when I use this, it's kind of like me sharing a moment with my ADD for a second because of how it works. So basically, it's called coolors.co if you want to check it out. But you press the space bar and it just, oh wait. You press the space bar once it's loaded and it just continuously generates random color schemes. And when you come across one color you like, but I'm actually going to save this one. If you come across some colors you like, but you don't like some of them, you can keep those colors by clicking the lock button and then just continue pressing space and it'll just generate the other ones. And then if you decide you don't actually like that one, like you just unlock it, keep going until you come to something you like.
Where was this for MySpace?
Yeah.
No, it's free.
Yeah, and then as you get more used to color, this uses the same color changing things that video was describing. Like it's a hue saturation value, I think, but here it's called hue saturation and brightness. So as you play around with this more and more, this becomes a very intuitive way to find out subtle nuance in color shades. So I feel like this is not exactly the right color to mix with these blues. So I would probably turn up the saturation a bit, maybe even change the hue to make it a little bit less orange. I'm bringing that down and just kind of brighten up. And it kind of fits better with these shades now. So not these ones though, not those browns, but you can drag stuff around to see how it looks next to each other as well. And that is a tool that I use. I highly recommend it. Okay, let me go back to design. So
That's super cool.
yeah.
And then if you were to build a business plan or a marketing plan, you can give somebody hey, these are really good colors that we should use for.
Yeah, you can make an account with that website and you can just build up a collection of them that's built into your account. It's free. It does cost money. You can get an iPad or an iPhone version of this app and do it on the go, but on the website on your computer it's free. All right, so I hope everyone got down that color. I need to go back to it. Oh, it's in a different tab. All right, so 92480. I'm sorry, that's not right. It's 262261. So if you're out of that, just go and click on that fill color icon on the side again. Oh, I just realized I need to plug in my computer.
What's that number?
Oh, sorry. 262261.
Oh, sorry. I know those hex values. And so what is that? What number is that?
Oh, yeah, no, it's the number you get in the shape of
It's a number that identifies the color, right? But what is it called?
Oh, it's called a hex code. So
Okay, that is that.
yeah. Yeah, it's just a simple way for computers to organize colors and just by a short string numbers and letters.
This says you can pick colors from images. Does it extract
What?
the colors from a specific image?
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, we'll do that in a different class. But yeah, if you do that, it'll try to pick out the most vibrant, the most important colors of the image based on some algorithm or something. So yeah, you could do it that way. And there are a lot of apps that do that as well. So once you have the background color, I'm just gonna go for it now. It's 262, 261, I think. Yeah. Okay, and then I'm going to turn on my rulers. I'm gonna go back to the selection tool. And to turn on rulers, it's Control or Command R, depending on if you're using a PC or Mac. And once you have the rulers on, you can drag outward from them to create guides.
How do I get out of like the
What?
still highlighted room with the plus items?
Oh, if you have something highlighted, press Escape a million times, or hit the letter V on your keyboard and then click outside of it.
Okay.
Alright, so, yeah, so.
How do you change the rulers to being like smaller, I guess? I don't know, like,
Very undo, like,
I feel like my ruler is very big. Not that it really makes a difference, but.
Oh, it's based on the resolution of your display, how big the rulers look.
Got it. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
But, yeah, so I'm going to click on the ruler, and up here, transform lets you directly tell like where you want everything. So so this page is 8.5 inches wide, and I want to create a 1-inch margin on this side. So I'm just going to put 7.5 on the x-axis.
7.5.
Yeah, and that's now a 1-inch margin. I'm going to create the word Creative Nights. If you click T, it'll open the text tool. And then if you just click anywhere, you can start typing. So I'm going to turn on my caps lock here, type in Creative, enter Nights. If you drag outward from the corner, always hold Shift. If you don't hold Shift, this is what happens, and this is just a big no-no. So,
So you hold shift and drag.
yeah, so if you hold Shift and drag, it will keep the proportion of it, and when you're resizing, I always hold Shift. I'm going to change the font to Cubano, and I'm going to go over here. You change the color of text with that same tool, so you just go there, and let me find that. So that's F7E C36. F7E C36.
Wait, I'm sorry, can you go back to when you drag it on there?
Oh, yeah,
I'm
so do you have the text?
Yeah, so I have the
okay.
text and I.
So press Escape to get out of the text.
Okay.
And then you can click it and move it around as an object. You can click and drag it around.
Okay.
And I'm also going to write Justify on top of your screen. It should just be there when you have that text box selected. This is a contextually sensitive bar, so like depending on what you're doing, it will have different tools for like what you're trying to do. So like if I click out of this, you can see all the text related tools disappear. When I click on this, it has other buttons. So I'm clicking on this, and I'm gonna resize this a little bit smaller. That.
How did you change the font? I'm sorry, I was a
Oh,
little
for
bit
sure.
behind on that.
The character is right there, so you can change the font by
I'm trying.
next to the word character, and then you just type in the word Kuban, and it'll come up. Yeah.
And then what did you change the font size to?
I have it like 122. It's not super important how exact it is to mine, because this wasn't like a super precise design to begin with. So I'm just trying to make it more precise. We can create something very similar. So I'm going to put a circle behind Cubano Nights now. And you can go to the ellipse tool by clicking L for ellipse.
Jordan?
Yes.
How did you get it into like creative and then nights?
Oh, you just click enter and it goes to a new line. If you double click it and go back into it, just put your
Oh, got it.
cursor in between there and just like do a.
And then you justified it, that's what you said?
Yeah, I justified it to the right, and that is like, or aligned it to the right. So if you click on that box up here, it should show the justification next to the word paragraph,
Okay.
and then you can align it.
And what was the yellow color? I'm sorry, I was.
For sure. The yellow color is F60C37.
And how do you get to the other, like, column thing? Like that window that popped up?
Oh, sorry, you click right over here. So right over here it shows your stroke, which is like the color that's outlined with and the fill color. The what? F60 C37. Or F70. I don't know, those are very small differences.
Super, how to do stuff all the time, but I don't know how to do
It's okay, I'm gonna go through this a little bit quicker. Okay, I'm gonna speed up now, so everyone pay attention. I'm gonna go to the ellipse tool and hold shift, create a circle over here. I'm gonna change the color of this circle to that purple color. I have these colors right here. I don't know if you can read that. No, that's not reading. I'm gonna make it that purple. I'm going to go to my layers panel. The layers panel shows you every object on the page, and that should be somewhere there. It might be collapsed like this, in which case you can spread it out by clicking that arrow. And it should show layer 1, and you can expand that and see every object in the layer by just clicking this arrow. This shows you every object on your screen in the order that it's stacked. So this purple circle is on top, so it's at the top of this list. So I'm gonna drag it down underneath the word Cubano, and there it is. I'm also gonna go back to the selection tool and just move it about right there. It doesn't need to be exact. In fact, it's like almost more fun if it's like a little bit off. And it's showing the page border right here. So you know when it's printed out, like it'll cut it off right there. I need to stop and see how everyone's doing. Can you guys help me see how everyone's doing?
They're stuck on the blue screen.
Yeah.
Oh.
You start going ahead with a line, and then I just kind of sat
I
there.
guess this isn't working.
No, I'm very interested.
No, I mean like I think like me doing everything first and then come back.
Maybe do like one step at a time and walk around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just kind of like, let's do the thing.
For sure. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so go to I appreciate it, I really appreciate it. Okay, so go to the text panel, you can click T, so it's also that button thing.
How did you do the different? Oh wait.
Oh yeah, so to create a guide, you drag outward from the ruler. So you drag from inside the ruler. So you literally drag from inside the ruler. You click from inside the ruler and drag out. And the same way you can create a vertical or a horizontal line. Yeah, and then you can right now it's selected, so you can click the transform button and tell exactly where you want it to be. To create a 1-inch margin, so you type in 7.5. Just click enter. You click the transform button to the top of your screen.
Did you download the type?
Yeah, I did.
And, oh, okay, so you didn't change your units to inches, so right click on the rulers and click inches. So yeah, you can change your units. So you just type in 7.5. Okay.
It's funny because
I understand, but Photoshop, I'm still like command T to like the last.
Oh yeah, you just click and drag stuff and move out of those trails.
Yeah, how do you put like type in small, make it smaller?
Oh, okay. It seems like.
And then selected.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, that's it. All right.
That happens to me a lot.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know why it gets turned off automatically. But that ever happens to me.
That's what it is. Okay.
How are you doing?
Yeah, this is one of
Cool, okay.
I'm not sure.
So you can rearrange the objects by clicking that drop down right there, that arrow that's pointing to the right, and it shows you the order that everything's in. So to move Creative Nights in front, you just click and drag where it is and put it on top. Yeah, and you can resize objects just by clicking on it. So you can make that circle. By holding shift, you're maintaining the yeah.
And for creative, like,
Oh,
no, I
okay.
have to,
Okay, so I know what you did. Instead of, let me actually go and explain exactly what this
I feel like it's actually better, like,
Okay, so there's two ways to create a text box. You can click, in which case it just creates like something that would be for a headline, or you can click and drag when you're creating a text box, and that's what we did. And that lets you create a bounding box and it's and three sides, and that's good for paragraph text. Yeah, so press escape, and it'll, if you press escape, just put it in. Yeah, so then when you do T again to go back to the text box, just click instead of clicking on that. Yeah. Yeah, so now you can just type in creative, enter nights. While I'm doing it, I'll actually just put up the color palette.
oh yeah, the colors, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alright, there's this the color palette.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I just told them to type
Oh, I
in
need
the
to
next
highlight it.
one. You can't see it on the blue one, but for the yellow one, it's F78.
Okay.
And then you change it.
Jamie, I know. So you can change this, so I just put up with
Yes.
Yeah, well, how to fast forward that time. After college, there is no distance.
You can add all these colors to your swatches window, if you click right there on swatches. That shows the color that's right here, so you can just drag that down to anywhere. And it'll
Instead of a backdrop, I just want the top.
and if you want to have this window organized, you can click the room of that window and drag it to like in between there, and it'll like show you where it's gonna stand. So if you want to drag it up, it'll get like right, yeah, and let it go. So now you just like have it there.
But you're a photographer, so you
now from top.
You can resize it, there's like in between, you can resize it. Oh yeah, to,
maybe.
oh,
Is this your last year? 2 classes?
oh, I typed this in manually.
Oh.
Dang, I remember you were a little team.
Wait, I wonder if I did it.
Little
Nice.
No, it's not yet right there.
I didn't make a sense.
Making twice as much
Oh, yeah.
money doing way cool stuff. Actually, I was about to tell you, USC, they wrote a story about it. They wrote about
Oh yeah, it's not gonna come up.
But it's cool, like, I actually,
Oh yeah.
what they talked about it was USC because I found a job using that. I'm going to USC for data science. So, how to build these websites.
So, okay, I didn't just do it really quick.
Oh, I typed command on it. That's just how you turn on the tab. And then to create the guide, you just drag out from the like click on the ruler to drag out. Like click literally in.
No, it's not the school, it's totally separate.
Oh no, from
Yeah,
on the
it's
ruler.
something that she was a part of, so that
Like
she
click on the
told
ruler.
me about it.
Put your cursor on the ruler.
Wait, what?
Just click it.
Oh, this different side.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, you know that was the ruler. Oh
Yeah,
shit. I'm sorry.
This is my first time using this. I'm so sorry.
Okay, yeah, and then you just drop it.
corporate.
And you can just type in 7.5 to put it in that place of the document.
Yeah.
The same way you change the color object. Press escape to the selection. And now you're selecting that whole box. It's right there, just like it was for the background color.
Just like today.
Yeah, and I have the color palette up.
Did you try to
How do you have
type
to
in
circle?
What?
How do you have to circle?
Oh yeah, so you go to, you can press L for ellipse, or you can get shapes by going right there and holding your cursor down on it, and it'll show you this little ellipse. Yeah, hold shift to maintain proportion, and you'll keep it a circle by holding shift. And that's the same with everything. When you're resizing an object, to maintain the proportion, you hold shift.
Oh, yeah.
Well, soon enough, school will be done.
But this is how we talk work, so.
It's great because I work in data visualization and all of this stuff is like when I was watching the beginning, I was like, yeah, I have to do those things, like, and it's like, these are just foundational, so like, if you're gonna just like, this stuff, if your stuff is gonna be seen by anybody else, it's super important. But, that's if you
The
want.
pledge tomorrow.
Oh,
And that's why I talk about how to, like, I wanna do my same exact talk.
I know, I want to hear
Are the
behind
layers?
the text. Let me know, next time we get it. Actually, I hate my mother.
I know, right?
I literally hate it.
I'm talking earlier yesterday about the opportunity to interview them and like learn more about like what they have.
I don't think it's in the south.
Oh god, all
Something
this
else
stuff.
instead.
I
wish the team was looked up. I don't think though, like the way that they had it, like they're living on it, like the way they set it up, like there's so many people that are like pushing out a client, so like you can all be like talking to one another to create content. Like they're not just throwing you in by yourself with one client, be like, all right, do it. Like it's really great that it's like team oriented, so I really like that.
so I'm just.
Go to office hours, we do that. That's the best.
Yeah.
Did you delete
Because then
it?
now it's
Alright,
Oh, I
and then
literally.
you talk through it, talk
There is
They actually have a
just
dress.
talk through like, hey, this is how I feel, like,
It's
what do
like
you
still
think?
has the border.
And then like,
So now it doesn't text.
So I literally left class early, but then I didn't know where AMA is.
You can just.
Over there, I don't know the number, just
they don't have a stain.
They did, and they.
so many different ones.
It's like a skate. It's like the most used applications.
But, you know,
And
there's
it-
still a lot of people born
Yeah.
there.
Oh, no, for sure.
Yeah.
This is like one of the biggest.
Oh, I see.
So they'll just go crazy, they're almost at the hour piece.
LH, lecture hall,
One
151.
Oh, okay, it's one of the side ones.
LH 150.
It's right by Prospector P.
Yeah, it's,
I had to get them online. Thank you.
wait, I heard they're changing to us from like 49 to a shop, is that real?
No,
Oh,
there's actually a girl that was in my digital marketing class. She said that they literally spent like. Sorry.
Get out of my way!
She said that they spent like they were collaborating.
Alright.
George and I was like so much money. But I was like, I don't think we're switching.
She showed me this one.
Or if we are switching to the sharks, they're still using the professional, like they're still using it as like just seeing them on
Like, show me the
the
sheet.
49.
Like 5 days, like, labs, we like throwing around, right, we're
Cause
because
it'll throw up
they
all
brand us like, so I started Valentine's Day.
and all of the.
And then I have like,
Student athletes are like not like fully supported, so. We're already sharks, already in the same school year. I feel cool wearing that, but they got upset about it.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and continue.
We can talk about that. I'd love to hear.
Your name? Megan.
Whole process too.
Which class is for?
Nothing. It was the, you know?
Somebody got paid.
Oh my god, I
Yeah,
hate
right?
laptops.
graphic designer guy.
Like, wipe that from my memory.
Hopefully.
I'm not getting picked, please.
He was very, very helpful.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do something that looks neat. I'm going to duplicate this by copying and pasting it. Command C, Command V. Oh wait, that's not, okay. Command C, if you do Command C, Command Shift V, it places it in the same exact spot. So there's two of these here now. And now I'm gonna use the arrow keys, now it's selected like this. You can just use the arrow keys to nudge it. And if you click this button right here, it flips the fill color and the outline color.
What do you mean? What button?
It's like a double-ended arrow that's like turning a right. And I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna copy it and paste it in the same spot, and then I'm gonna nudge it down again over here.
Did you move it to the left?
I moved it down and to the left.
Down to the left.
Yeah. And now I'm gonna go up here and make that middle one into that blue color.
Wait, you did that twice then?
Yeah. Okay, so this is not exactly how it looks. So I'm rearranging these so it looks, it's kind of a weird jumble right now. This is going at the top. And, yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, so if you click this button right here, you can flip the fill color and the outline color.
And then the blue one, you just like to switch the color over to
Yeah,
blue.
and then I rearrange them so that the blue one's at the bottom, even though it looks like the blue one should be in the middle, just because it kind of messes with you.
What color
Like a
did
fun way.
you use?
What?
What color did you use for blue?
For the blue, yeah. I use this lighter blue. Yeah. Did you get it? Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, so you can use the arrow keys to move it very subtly. So if you delete it back to that original one, I'll show you. So just click delete on your keyboard. Yeah, just click one of them, delete. Alright, so now I just click on it, and then Command C. I don't think, did you hit Command C? Now you did. Command Shift V. Alright, now use your arrow keys and move it down like 5 times, then move it up like 5 times. Using your arrow keys. Alright, now click that button. Alright, now you flipped it. Alright, and then do that again. Command C, Command Shift V, move it down.
I can't do blue in between there.
To rearrange it, go to your layers panel, and then you can rearrange them. Because the blue one's supposed to be that middle. So click on that. I think you can click right from there, but if you want to select something, you click on that circle. You just click on it. Yeah, so that's the front one. Move that to the top. Yeah. Click on the one that was blue in there, and then make that the yellow color.
Make it the yellow.
Yeah.
That looks cool. Oh, it's right now the stroke isn't selected. So if you want to change the color of the stroke, you have to click on that until it's in the front.
The stroke is the outline.
Yeah.
Okay. What color did you do the second one? The second?
It's that blue on the left or on the right.
Both of them are that blue? Do it mine.
No, the middle one was the light blue and the front one. Yeah, the front one and the one all the way in the back was that yellow.
Space Cadet or Vivid? I already wrote it down.
Wait, for which?
See, there's things at the bottom, so you can actually.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
It's Space Cadet, Blue, Pigment, or Vivid.
It's Vivid Cerulean. I used for the middle one.
Oh. Then the other one that's not that one is what?
Yeah, okay.
Go blue.
Right. No, it's fine. what's going on here? I don't even know.
Oh, yeah, the front one, it will be from.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can just drag it down on the list that's in the middle. It's the blue one's at the top right now, so just drag that down to the middle. Oh, and that one on the bottom is the one that has the fill. So just drag that bottom, keep on to the top. All right, so now. Okay, so the way I designed this is even though the blue one's in the middle, I arranged them weird on purpose. So that it looked kind of like a weird puzzle because like that blue one should be in the middle, but I put it all the way in the back so it looked cool.
Okay.
Oh, it's basically impossible to do it to select them directly. So to select something in the layers panel, there's a circle on the right side of each object, and when you click that circle, you can select it.
Is it like possible to move stuff like with this? Or almost kind of use the
What?
arrows? Is it like once you have it selected, can you move it smaller, like instead of dragging it?
Oh, just increase the size of that?
No, just to move it around. It is possible to
Yeah,
move it.
yeah.
Zoom in.
I usually, like, for this, I went to the left 5 clicks and down 5 clicks. And then I did to the left 5 and down 5 again for the third one. But it's up to you, whatever you think looks good.
What do you think on it? Or what? Just in general. Wait, I
It's the yellow.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just drag them like that.
Okay, right now, my schedule is, oh. Next door is doing of course, that has to be done. And I'm scheduled on Friday morning to.
Okay, so wait a second. You were resizing this, so it's stressful a little bit. So let's just recreate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, I just sent you that. I was like looking for names the whole time, like, you have an HIT.
Yeah,
and
I
then
don't
I was
know.
like, there.
Oh, no, I just made it up because.
Wait, I can see.
I think the last time we just got laid off.
If you want to, like, if you have symbols like that, you want to highlight it all. Just hit Command A.
What is it? Job.
Command A.
EC.
It's
And if you restart typing,
I think the last time I saw it, I was actually at
3 7s.
that was the last time I spoke at.
Thank you.
and then go back to 4
I feel like you always got hired.
Oh my god.
So then when I saw that on your, that's why I was like, wait, what is it?
Alright, so now press escape to the page.
After one of those, like, I got laid off.
And then,
18. It was crazy.
this is my first time
Like,
working
it wasn't even
on
my fault. We're just like, we're just, the company just merged.
and then
AT&T bought Warner Brothers, AT&T had an a social media company, called Shilkoff. And then,
so now
I see a lot of.
It feels like it's right.
that's a lot of selection.
And also just like chain.
Oh, but you have to keep holding shift.
I could
Yeah,
do
it's
that.
not-
So
Oh,
if
yeah,
you
it is.
go on the press command.
That place is super awesome. Like, that's but continuing on, so their team.
Yeah, so they're now.
Laid off, laid off. And that was when I was. And then I got to, and that was when I spoke at Cal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was supposed to. But anyway, I ended up getting it, and I was like, alright, well, I'm just gonna do this.
That's how okay I am with it. Wait, you still Yeah, and then you go to lines get like from and then you go to mazes.
Social media, right?
The mazes are probably the worst. But like like, that's where I started.
Yeah, I don't know.
But like, it's just fun. And then just like,
Wait, what actually did you have an age?
What?
You have an age?
Well, we had a meeting that was leave for 30, so it's like even for 30 or like even at night. It was like a lose-lose.
Alright, so it's F7.
I can go for some shit for like.
Then the next one came and watched, oh my god. And then this one came up, I was in love.
Alright, so now,
I literally play with Ramon on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Chick-fil-A and
Anything,
like he ate a salad, so like made me feel bad, but.
Yeah, I like
don't think you were-
I was just telling you about the spicy salad.
No one goes
and then
to
try it
Chick-fil-A
again.
and get salad.
Try it out. With the
And then,
avocado.
then it was plastic.
Alright, now we create four. Do you actually bring one like here?
Yes.
Oh,
And
yeah, numbers again.
then I was watching the grade, and then this company, like, I don't know where this area was.
So now we're walking, just go down like 5 steps and then go down like 5 steps.
And I was like, better lifestyle, and then I just put on a number there, because I was like, live nation.
Yes.
That's the last thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I just said,
It's
I want
the,
to.
the part that
gluten-free. Yeah, the gluten tastes that's really good. That's what I was saying.
if you do that again,
It's like,
it's
$9.
I use that as leverage.
What?
And this much, and so they are like,
Yeah.
we do not.
They give you like a lot of food.
And then I was like,
I don't want this happen.
it was horrible, because I was supposed to start buying.
and it's hard to select.
And I just stopped.
That's what I went. But it's easier to click on that circle.
So immediately after the email, I was like,
I really don't have that.
and like, it's like, I don't know if they were there.
The middle one,
But it's just for you.
that means
Yes.
0, 0,
in my house, it's literally across the street.
Now, like, I'm no longer.
We almost tried to crave
It's nothing, that's why I'm here, like, I'm working downtown Long Beach. And was.
Alright, so
Is that what I
if you
did my
look
speaking
at
thing
that
for my
color
pay?
here, and then you have your
international
business
business job and sales. So I'm like, well, I suppose I'll have a job for these guys. And so I'm a good
I
friend.
like that one. And I actually bought it for you.
Okay, yeah, so once you move that yellow on top, I think it's that one. You just
The
click
thing is, what's cool about that from the circles,
There's no rock.
3 years ahead of
But no, there's a branch. Oh, yeah, like, yeah.
But also do all the
Yeah,
I'm doing. You're just sending your presentation.
it's just things.
No, oh, no, like I have the press, like I wrote it down. I'll send this, but like, I talked about the background college.
Alright, I'm gonna go forward a little bit. We're running out of time, so I'm just gonna do a bit more. Let me see what I can do. Okay, I'm not gonna call this text here, but, wait, I forgot if I explained what, okay, so, let me go through this design just to explain like a few things about like the theory of it. So, the hierarchy, which you guys had explained to you in the composition video, the most important thing on here is the biggest thing, Creative Nights. And then I made the second biggest thing, AMA Presents. But because, even though it's the second largest thing on here, because it's just an outline, it doesn't take up a lot of positive space. So it can be prominent, but not draw too much attention, since like it doesn't have as much like visual weight as like this text down here does. And it just kind of balances it out a bit. Like it has this flow to it, and everything's aligned here, and it has this kind of flow to it where it creates this shape of like going out and then in. And that like actually like guides your eye while you're reading it. This is actually kind of interrupting that, that's okay. But and I added this after. Because I wanted to make sure that everyone's on this. So yeah, I'll show you really quick how I did this pattern, just on a new document. Or actually, no, I'll just use this one. I guess this will be a preview for next week. show you guys how to use the pen tool.
Oh.
Alright, so I'm just gonna make that visible for a second. I'm gonna lock this layer and I'll show you guys how to do that later. I'm just gonna create a circle, a very small circle, and make it like, I don't know, 0.1 inch. Oh wait, there we go. Wait a second, okay, locking proportion, oh wait, that's not right, over here, 0.03 actually, okay. Actually, I'm gonna change this to points. This is easier to do with points. Because with the arrows, move it left and right 1 point. Okay, I'm gonna make it 1.2. I did this before, so I'm just gonna use the same. So I made it 1.2 points high and wide. If you hold the Alt key on your keyboard while you're using the arrow keys, you can duplicate something. And if you hold the Shift key, you can move it 10 spaces instead of 1. So, oh, oops, okay, that's 6. All right, I'm gonna highlight all those. Yeah. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, group those.
At least we know you didn't do it one by one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's positive.
Oh, wait, okay. It's like playing an instrument. Okay.
Oh my god, that's so small.
Virus. Growing.
How many is that?
One.
7, okay.
This is how it's taking up all your CPU, all those layers.
Yeah, it's like having to render like 10,000 perfect circles at once, so it's like kind of taxing. Oh my god.
Oh.
Damn it, I was so good at this on this. Okay, that's more than 10. What? No, I did this wrong. Okay, this is taking longer than I expected, never mind.
Oh my gosh.
So basically what I did was, I'll just explain what I did. Once I created that many circles, I rotated them 45 degrees. And then you can cut a shape into something by using the pen tool, which is what I used to create that, like, yeah, that wavy thing. And then there's this thing called a layer mask where you can use one object and cut out another object. And that was not what I used here. Okay. Okay, so there's this very complex thing where you can make something into something that the program treats as one object. Right now it's treating it as 100 objects. Make a compound path. So now it's considered one object. If you go to Window Pathfinder, this is the cookie cutting tools, as I like to call them. I'm going to place this on top of the circles, and I'm going to select both of them, and go to Pathfinder, and there's a button called minus front, or sorry, not minus front, intersect.
Oh.
And it used the shape that was on top to cut out that, and that's exactly what I did. I created those wavy lines, and I made a bunch of circles and used that wavy line to cut out. And you can see where it intersected with the circles at the edges.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I made a bunch of those that would kind of like this is the art part of graphic design. Just like creating those lines so that it creates like a nice, like taking up space, and kind of how that wavy thing kind of draws more attention to these creative nights and like where the location is and stuff. And these kind of supplement that style without drawing too much attention. So it's that medium blue. And I think that was the only place I used this blue in the design, was just to create that pattern there. I'm gonna, I think I might do more than 2 Illustrator classes for creative nights, because this is the most important program to know for graphic design. It's not actually Photoshop. Photoshop is more just for editing photos. And I'm gonna show you guys one more. I don't know if you noticed, the NOLA Nights poster had this to an even greater degree. And I wanna show you this just to show you like what you can do with Illustrator. This might take a second. No, that's not it. That is not the one. Okay. Oh, that's right, I call it round 3 because this is my third try. Oh, what happened?
No, it's all good. It's a cheap mouse.
Okay.
Oh, was it? This is $15.
Mice can get really pricey. Oh my god, this is lagging so bad. Okay.
That is really intense.
Yeah. Okay, so I started off with a gradient in the very back. There's a gradient in the very back of this that goes from like a light turquoise to like a dark gray. The whole thing has this circle pattern on it. So it looks insane. There's also 4 layers of text here, and the 4th one is behind the circles. So it looks really weird. There's also, and I got this from an Instagram post that I saw, and I wanted to recreate it, but I needed to analyze it for like 3 days to figure out how she made this. And the hardest part was figuring out why is that pink blocking these circles, but you could see the circle pattern inside the yellow one. And what she did was she used those words to cut out a copy of the circle pattern. And there's another circle pattern on the very top of the yellow.
So you recreated this from Instagram?
Yeah, I'll show you the result.
Yeah, I want to see the result. I love Instagram. It's just like where you see the best of this sometimes.
Yeah, so this is it.
Wow, it looks insane.
Yeah. It was annoying, but I loved it. Oh my god, it takes 5 minutes to save this file, and the screen goes black when you try to save this file. There
That's
are.
why I need supercomputers for this stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that I would need that, but yeah, that is. We can do this. If you guys are down to learn more Illustrator, then I'm down to teach it because I have a lot to show. But we're almost out of time, so I'm just gonna spend the rest of the class helping people get closer to this, I guess. I'll just leave it up.
Where's your bed?
Yeah, so you can just create them. You can even copy the environments. Just listen using Command C, Command V, and then move it up and resize it to create difference.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, yours is coming along pretty well.
After Anya pretty much did the whole thing, she's
Yeah.
like, it's okay, I got it.
Oh wait. Oh, did you hit enter? I'm just wondering which
You got the
text
dots on it
box.
too?
Oh.
No.
I thought I saw the dots from here. I'm like, oh my god, my bad.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there's 2 different ways to create a text box in Illustrator.
Okay.
One way is you just when the text tool's open, you just click.
Are you teaching?
And the other way is you click and drag.
No.
And the easiest way
barely
to
know
like
what I'm
manipulate
doing.
for when you're creating design is mostly headlines. It's just clicking. Because if you, yeah, so, no, not don't copy and paste, but like, check this out. So if I click, see, and just click, it just creates a starting point for the text. And see, I can, shift and resize this just by.
Wait, what was the difference that you did there?
This is another kind of text box, so when you do the same thing, it doesn't do that. This is like the kind of text box you create for body text, like a whole paragraph of text. That when you resize it, it will change the line width and everything. It's, you just click, so that's, I'm sorry, I clicked on the text box. Okay. Click right there. Yeah, the other way is to click and drag, and that will just like continue like that. Whereas if I just click, it'll stay on the same line. So it's easier to, yeah, so.
Wait, what is the look at it? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Just close it.
So,
I don't understand what's happening. Oh, click V. That's just how to go back to the normal cursor mode.
I'm just, how do I, find the rest of it, like,
If you drag it around, it will actually snap to that guy. If you can actually go to the layers, you can lock something so you can actually move around. So right next to the eyeball, just like that empty square. And now it won't, yeah, it won't let you move it around. And you just do that as needed, so like when you're trying to do it. That also helps you select stuff that's underneath. So then you can see it should snap to that side of the guy. Okay, let me show you like about the snap. If you select them in the layers panel, the easiest way would be just to select them. Or just to, not to drag it, but you just click it and then click delete on it. Oh, you're inside the text box right now. So go back to the selection cursor and press
Do that on
escape.
cover the whole page?
Yeah, I'm trying to like,
Just an area?
make it smaller.
Dude, I use escape probably 1,000 times more than most people. It's like the most used button in this program. for me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and V puts you back into that cursor mode, which lets you select things. Oh, also you can move that window to right on top there. It'll like show you where it's gonna snap, and then you can like rearrange things like that.
Oh, wow. And then how'd you get it? Oh, did you do
Oh,
separate?
you can snap things. To be able to snap text, you have to set the justification so that it's on the side you want to snap it to. So click right justify, and then you should snap that dot right to that line when you drag it close to it. And there's like a purple things that appear and tell you that. So now it's perfectly snapped that line out.
Oh, it looks like you did two separate things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, I just hit enter. So you could go in there and just hit enter. And you can get into it by just
so escape again does what?
Oh,
Just-
you guys like
Do you get it?
Yeah, are you
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just really wanted to learn.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But like, I think I got everything.
Okay, so what I did is I want to try it for
Here.
Yeah.
I made the
With like your.
I just changed my units.
Oh,
It
just
just
copy.
makes it easier.
So you would
And I
like-
created like a very specific size of circle. So
Yeah,
that
but
they
it's
weren't
like
too close
less
to
than,
each
I
other
think this is like
and
really quite
covered up
expensive.
behind.
Okay, because I kind of just did it by eye and then I just
Oh,
looked
shut
at
up,
it. But so what you did is got one like all around.
But now it's 1.2.
Where do you wanna
If you
go?
right click on your settings,
Oh, nice. Is it undergrad or grad?
Master's.
So 1.2.
Then it made it like really tiny.
That's really cool.
Because you
I like it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I started doing social
made
media.
40,000. So I took that big square and then duplicate it right
Yeah,
once,
still pretty
and then
good.
duplicate both those squares down. And so you end up with 40,000 dots. I rotated the 40,000 dots 45 degrees.
Oh, you, so you,
And
it was like
then,
your full-time job?
I resized
Okay.
it until like it looked good,
And
and then I cut it out.
I got that job.
I'll get into the
And I
pinnacle next
literally.
week.
Okay, yeah, I think
I
I
just
found it.
IBA.
Yeah,
Thank
for my class.
I just.
We were just doing straight on October 8th.
Oh, cool, nice.
And
I made
I was
it
hoping
like
like today, like.
I don't know.
Instead of Photoshop?
People, like, I wanted to
I
know for you guys,
don't,
what days you guys have. 'Cause
I think illustration
Okay,
is
yeah, I
more,
think
as a,
Okay.
as a data
maybe it
scientist
should be Photoshop,
or
I'll go back to
business
this. Do you
intelligence.
think I should?
A little bit of both technical and a little bit of both.
But now I'm
Okay.
local, I used to.
Alright.
I think illustration is more.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I can imagine.
For you
I think
guys,
it's a little
yes.
harder, because I have Photoshop, this is a little more, like,
Wait, I
useful, I
made-
think.
Let's see,
Maybe
Like
you
the
have,
pencils.
you have one Illustrator Labs, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
pretty
very
much
cool.
just like,
And
you
then on the
walk, you
Photoshop,
just create
and then on the
like,
Photoshop
copy
day,
it,
you decide.
and then you just
Okay.
moved it down to the left,
I
and
don't
then
wanna
you
only
like
do
did this
Illustrator. I
button.
should have planned more.
So
next
it's
week.
pretty
The-
much like.
There's gonna be more next
The
time.
XD is
Yeah, it makes
working
an
for
outline rather
the
than
Illustrator.
essentially.
I'm doing the Adobe XD on AMA,
I know,
Oh,
it's pretty, I
what
think
day
it's
is
pretty
that?
cool.
October
It's not
7th.
that difficult, but like,
Okay,
it's just a
cool.
lot of steps.
That's where you're going.
Yeah,
To tell them how to bring their laptops.
yeah.
That's gonna be
It's
sweet.
like, well, imagine like, for him to like
Do you,
argue
do
this and
you use Adobe XD?
you know, create this.
I've used it
oh.
before.
Did you say I might hate it?
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
people might need it.
And then like
The
the
XD,
XD.
You got it? You didn't
They're
know.
I think the basics here is just
Still?
Oh, did I do it every time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then
But
you
I
just
said-
get it.
Yeah.
But I saw it on a fast, like, I didn't follow. But if people that like never even opened it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to do something crazy, I'll try to do something easy, I want to just design a website.
So that's why in the beginning of the class.
I think it's hard to
Okay.
do
Because
crazy.
We'll see. We'll see. There's a lot more.
Yeah, no, I'll get it done this week, actually, not so much time I'm gonna spend doing that, because I don't want to spend like
This is cool, I like actually sat down.
I try to be quick, like something, you
Yeah.
want to record this pen, just put the video somewhere.
Okay. I'm gonna stop the phone now.
Are we going over anything else?
No, I was planning on ending it at 8:30. And I did get done as much as I wanted to, but this is a good learning experience for how to plan my lessons for next time.
I switched.